All right, you ready? I know you did a little bit of last night.
I did some karaoke, is what I did. It was amazing. Hey everybody, welcome to the Going Analog podcast, where, well, today, two gamers are going to be sitting and talking about games. We have a lot of party games to talk about today, because that's the theme for today. It's just me and Shu talking about party games. Usually we have more people when we play the party games, but it'll be good, and I'm excited to get going, I guess. We have no script today because I'm hungover.
Way too, we're going to gain a lot of respect in the industry
Oh, yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've gotten so many new party games, like a lot of new party games, and we can't even fit them all in one episode.
No.
But we definitely have a few we want to highlight that we had fun with and showed to and played with our friends. But before we do that, we're going to have our normal game picks. Aside from party games, we each picked a game that we wanted to highlight on the show today, right? So what is yours?
My game is the opposite of a party game, I would say. It is Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. So this is by Stanislav Kordomsky. He also designed Lock Up and, there's a even...
Should have looked this up before we started recording. I think, did he do Endless Winter?
Endless Winter. Yes, that's the other very, very famous one he did. So this is from Board and Dice, who provided us with a copy. And it was very, if you're like into dice drafting at all, this is like your jam. It was, which we heard the demo at Gen Con, and she was like, yeah. He was very, very excited. And so we played a full 4-player game of it during a board game retreat. So we had a lot of fun playing with...
oh my God. Christina's
with various people.
Benita.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Mike Murphy from the Brothers Murphy.
Yeah.
Yes.
They did a video on it. So
yeah. So he had played before, and very, very crunchy game. So I would probably not recommend it to 4 players, but it was really, really fun. So basically, the big hook here is we roll a bunch of dice, right? But we are going to be drafting dice. The lower the number is, the more powerful your action will be. And then the higher the number, though, you get fewer action points, but you're going to climb up these various tracks and become more powerful and upgrade your civilization that way. Basically, we played different city-states in Minoan times, basically, and trying to develop the civilization, build out a lot of points, essentially. And so you're also doing some area control in the middle. So that was really, really interesting. So I would keep the 3 players because I like the idea for area control. I generally don't like area control with just 2 players, but 4 players did tend to drag because there's a lot of decisions. But I love the combos that you can do in this game. There's a lot of tucking of cards or playing cards that give you abilities, and then but combined with the things you get for expanding on the map, there's ways to link a lot of actions, and it was really, really fun. I want to play that again for sure. Fascinating game.
You know who was dragging us down was you. Even at one point, Benito's like, Christina, let's go ahead and make a decision and let's get going here.
Everybody had those in this game anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Because there is a lot to think about. It is a little on the heavy side, but mainly because, again, as you mentioned, do you want to pick a low number dice, which chances are you're going to get a more powerful action, or a high number dice to kind of advance on these tracks that also give you new powers and more income and things like that.
And the extra thing to think about that was cool too, once you've selected your dice, you activate them for your actions. So we do that in turn order, but you have to activate your higher numbers first. So there's a little bit of action programming. We're like, oh, wait. I can't pick this one with my high number because I won't have this other resource yet. So that added another layer of decision making.
Yeah. It's cool. At first, it's a little intimidating because the board is really busy. There's a lot going on. There's this map with the area control part. There's these tracks. And then you can also, there's the 3 little boat tracks as well that you can start to build on and then start to collect income in different ways there. All the dice dynamics and stuff. But at least the dice part kind of reminded me of the game, one of my favorite games, Quambra, where it's like, because you're drafting dice and then you're trying to figure out when to put on the dice, the right numbers at the right places. And then, but other people can put in a higher number or lower number that kind of bumps your position. So that's always fun. So for a heavy Euro style game, there's actually more player interaction than not a ton. It's still a Euro, but it's more than maybe what you're traditionally used to.
Yeah. It's really fascinating, like the different tracks you can take. You were doing really, really well mid-game or during the game, but then somebody forgot some endgame points.
I was doing well for 99% of the game to the point where the other three players were like, oh my God, how are we going to catch up with it? Where everyone felt like they were doing something wrong, and I just had such a huge lead. And then at the very end, it was just all like, bloop, bloop, bloop. Everyone caught up and surpassed me. And I was third place, but almost last place. Very close to last place, yeah. Because I didn't think about end-game scoring as much.
Mm-hmm. Love that game. I want to play it again.
Yeah, very cool game. That's Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. Mm-hmm. So my game pick is Nature. And man, am I excited about this one. So we played this a couple times already. And then there's a lot more to play. Just in this box, this is the base game box. There's 5 modules. There's like a ton of different combinations and ways to play. So the setup for this is if you've been listening to us long term, you've heard us talk about evolution more than once because it's just such a cool thematic game. One of the most thematic I've ever played. And there are always these cool stories that come out of it. So we've talked on and on about evolution. This is North Star's sort of evolution of evolution, right?
I see what you did there.
Yeah, so clever. Basically, what they're doing is like they knew they could kind of streamline the game a little bit, make it a little bit more appealing for a broader audience, but also add some more stuff to make it more appealing for a more core gamer. So what you got now is like you could kind of North Star doesn't really say this. They're not really making evolution go away, but I don't see any reason to go back to evolution after playing Nature. So you can get the core box, the core game of Nature on its own. And then you can buy modules as sort of expansions, sort of small expansions, but they're expansions that like they're not mini modules or anything like that. They're full expansions. And you can add 1 or 2. I think you maybe even add more if you wanted to really get the games complicated. But the base game is about developing species, figuring out how they're fed, giving them evolutionary traits to help them survive, to either eat more or to survive in the wild or to become predators and such. And then you want to both grow the size of your species, like the population size, so they can eat more because eating is points in this game, or the size of the species, which also allows them either to eat more or to survive more. Bigger animals would just do better in the wild. That's the base game. And then they have the modules like the Jurassic period, which now you can have supersized monsters because basically you're getting dinosaurs into the mix.
Animals.
So you can add that. So you can now you can break through the normal size constraints of the game, and then you can have supersized creatures in the game. You can have, I think it's called the migration or the birds one, flight. So now you can have birds that are, and then there's a separate island that they might fly to and develop their own sort of biome and sort of ecosystem with these birds feeding on this other island. There's natural disasters. So then there's cards that you could draw that are almost like events, like a volcano exploding and things like that. There's the Arctic tundra, which makes things very hostile. Now it's even harder to eat. So it's like hard mode, basically. And then the rainforest, which is lush, a lot more chances to do well for your species to do well inside the rainforest. But again, you could mix and match. Some of them aren't designed to be put together. Like you probably don't want to play Arctic tundra and rainforest at the same time. But you could do flight in Jurassic or flight in natural disasters or Jurassic and rainforest. You could mix and match. So they're selling these individually, which is really cool because then if you're like a more casual gamer, you don't want a giant box. You know, they've been really thoughtful about like, most people aren't like us, right? Like a room full of hundreds and hundreds of games and giant boxes. Maybe they just want a small box, Nature core box, and then maybe 1 or 2 modules. Or you can get this, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this giant big box At the time of this recording, it's on Kickstarter. Nature's on Kickstarter. And then you can have one big box to store the base game plus the first 5 modules. And then their plan is to continue releasing maybe a couple of modules per year for the foreseeable future. They actually have a long plan for this. So we're going to see a ton more modules that are going to be coming out so you can customize your game. So, of course, we're like, we want the big box, right? Like, because we're going to want everything and we have the game room for it. But I really like the system where they're like, you could just add what you want in case you don't want to.
It's more for your play style, right? So like if you're very, very aggressive, then the Jurassic one is going to be more your play style where there's a lot of interaction, I think, between players. But yeah, like, have a like really nice big point scoring game, add the rainforest, right? So I think it goes toward the player style too. Yeah. So you're not forced to play, against whatever your comfort level would be.
Yeah.
So.
And we showed this game recently to a few friends who have not played Evolution before. And then they had the same reaction that I've always, the fondness that I've had for the Evolution series, which is, oh, this is so cool from a thematic point of view. Because as I was explaining what the cards do, they're like, that makes sense. That makes sense. For example, there's a fast trait you can add to your species. And then if you're faster, then if you have more fast traits than another species, you can catch them and eat them. So for them to survive, they have to be faster. So they have to become even faster. And if they can have more cards than you, then you're not going to be able to catch them. And there's things like that where, again, you're developing different traits, growing your animals. In the game we played last, I became Predator. And then so I started eating other species for points. But then they developed fast and other protections to the point where they forced me, because everyone controls several species, right? They were all so protected that I was forced to eat one of my own species from my side of the board. And then they're all giggling and laughing at every time. That's like, because I'm cannibalizing, almost literally cannibalizing my own points here. So,
but you ended up winning.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It was still cool.
So
but, yeah. So like if you liked Evolution or if you've never played it and you want a really cool thematic game around nature, check out Nature. And then this is I'm kind of glowing about this. This is not a paid placement or anything like that.
We did get a free copy of it. So
we got a prototype, early copy to check out. But yeah, very cool thematic game. That's Nature.
And now on to our many, many party games that we'd like to talk about. So we have, I think we wanted to talk first about some games that sort of tweak our typical formula.
Yeah, we have 3 categories of games we're going to cover today, right? So we have a couple of games that kind of tweak already winning formulas, and then we're going to go over what we think of them. There's some team games, which is my favorite way to play party games, team versus team or one team. And then we have a couple of drawing games. And then if we have time, we'll do a couple of quick hitters. But yeah, do you want to start with Rabble?
Let's start with Sync. Let's talk about Sync. So both Rabble and Sync are from Rabble Games. And as you can see, very, very eye-catching boxes. They do look a little bit like, I don't know, feminine products, but they're great. They really...
You think these look like feminine products?
Like feminine, like medication. That's it's a whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't take feminine.
They're really nice, though. Yes. They have like some shiny spot gloss on the boxes and everything. So it's taking these like party games and putting them in like a really different new package, I think. So for Sync, it's a game where you're trying to give clues. It is sort of like a team-based game also. We played in 2 teams. And as you're competing, you have a set number of tokens. You're essentially trying to get one guesser on your team to correctly guess a word that they don't know, but the rest of the team knows. And basically you're bidding, like, I think I can get them to guess this word with 1 word, and you would spend a 1 token for that, or 2 words, and that would be a 2 token, right? So since you have a finite number of tokens, this makes things very strategic. And the different times I've played, it's been interesting because some people take this game very seriously. And then I'm like, should we just let's just pick something. Let's just go, right? And then we're worried about like, oh, is this an allowed rule? Or you could play it a little bit more loosey-goosey, which I think, this party game should go for. But it was really interesting because, when you are able to merge your minds and get that person to guess the word with with only one clue, it's very satisfying, right? If your team misses it on that clue, then the other team can also choose to spend a token to try to steal it. So it adds that dynamic to it. And finally, everybody has this one super sync token where if you think that you can definitely get your guesser to guess it with one word, you can spend your one super sync token for the whole game. And if you get it right, then you will get 2 points instead of just 1. So yeah, it's a fun little twist on a lot of those sort of like just one sort of blank slate type games.
Yeah, so that's Sync. The other one we got, both of these were media copies from Rabble Games, is Rabble, named after the company. So if you ever played Time's Up.
Or Monikers.
Mm-hmm. Time's Up is up there with Telestrations as one of our favorite games of all time. And this is a bold statement. I think this might be better. Yeah, and that's really hard to say because Time's Up has been a favorite for so long, like 10 some years of ours. And can you imagine playing a game 10 years and then at the end of big gatherings, you're still able to break that out and you're so happy to break it out and you're still having a good time. It's amazing. That game is just like it stood the test of time. Rabble, we played a couple of times now, and I'm like, it does a lot of good things to tweak that formula. Right? So the basic idea of both of these games is you have a bunch of cards, and you're trying to get your teammates to guess what they are by giving them clues. But the twist is, in round 1, you could say anything you want, and then say whatever words and phrases to try to get your teammate to guess things. So things like, in this one, there's also some naughty cards that you can take out if you don't want to, but it's like the Kama Sutra, but then there are other words like bay or barista, and then just very like common words, maybe some not so common words. You're trying to get them to guess. Round 2, you take all the same cards. You don't add any new cards, so we all know the cards already. The group, everyone who's playing already have seen these cards. They do it again, but you only give a one-word clue. So you're hoping that you remember something that from the first round that can help trigger your memories. Like, oh, you're referring to barista again, right? Like that's an easy example, like coffee or something like that, right? In the third round, you take all the same cards again, but now you're pantomiming and you can't say anything.
Charades only.
Yeah, charades only, the same cards. So it's really fun because, again, it isn't about your knowledge of pop culture or trivia. It's like whatever clues we've developed as a group to get to the words on the cards in play will come up again and come up again. But now you have to figure out more creative ways to get your team to guess those clues. The difference with Rabble, so this is so assuming you know how Time's Up is structured, is now it's 2 teams, 2 full teams. And so in Time's Up, you could play teams or you could play 2v2v2 and so on. 2 teams. And then now your team has a set of cards. The other team has a set of cards. I like that tweak a little bit. Wasn't sure about this, but you don't really have to pay attention to the other team and memorize their cards as well, because in Time's Up, it's one deck for everybody that gets passed around. That's fun too.
Yeah, I think what I like about that is sometimes when you play the Time's Up where you're sharing all the cards, your team comes up with this like really great clue, and then the other team steals it when they end up with that card.
Yeah,
so which is funny, but I sort of like having that onto myself, my own team.
Yeah. So each team has their own deck of cards. You don't have to worry about memorizing or ever getting clues for the other one. That's one change. Second change, and these are small things, but you can decide whether you want unlimited passes for all rounds or play a hard mode, which is 1 pass per player turn. In Time's Up, round 1, you can't.
Rounding.
Yeah. And so in Time's Up, like now that I played Rabble, I'm like, Time's Up, you need to explain to people you can't pass in round 1. Round 2, you can pass. Round 3, you can pass. Round 2, in Time's Up, you can only, if you get one guess only. So if anyone on the team guesses incorrectly, you move on to the next card. So it's not as smooth. In Rabble, it's like, just keep guessing. They don't put those constraints on it, right? So you can guess as many times. So if you have 5 people shouting at you It doesn't matter. Wait, who said what first, and did they get it right? If not, that's wrong. You don't have to worry about that in Time's Up. So that's another tweak that I'm like, that kind of smooths it out. It's a little bit better that way. Third thing is the challenge cards. Do you want to talk about that?
So those are probably my favorite part. So you start the game off. Each team has these challenge cards that tell you which round they can be played on, and you play them on the other team. So they're just ridiculous things. You know, you can have somebody give them a card during their round. They have to rub their belly and pat their head at the same time. So I have a video of Shu doing that while he's trying to give hints.
I did well.
Yes, that was very impressive, very impressive. Sometimes they can't tell their team what they have to do, right? So for some of them, between every card, you have to just say a female singer's name or name something, you know, so it sort of like interrupts their train of thought, makes it a little bit more difficult. I had one where I had to do the whole round, my whole turn, acting like a baby hippo, and then literally the explanation just go with it, right? Because what does a baby hippo look like? I don't know. How does it act?
You don't know what a baby hippo looks like?
I mean, how does it act? It acts like Moodang. Yeah. If you don't know Moodang, go look up Moodang. Very cute. So, you know, I just went like, I don't know how a baby hippo sounds.
We're all looking at her like, what is she doing? Because we knew the challenge we gave you. Yeah. Or you might have to talk in a British accent, or I had to do one where I had to cry as I'm giving clues, right? So it's like very distracting. It's funny. It's a lot of it's super silly, but it's a party game. So
it adds the silliness, adds more silliness, which I love about it.
So in Time's Up over the years, a lot of expansion packs and new word packs that come out. So we have like hundreds and hundreds of cards to choose from. I'm hoping Rabble can get to that point, because there will be a point where we'll go through this box and we're like, we've seen all these words already, and then we kind of maybe we'll steal cards from Time's Up or something. But yeah, if you like Time's Up, definitely check out Rabble, because it does a lot of things slightly better, and that might be my replacement for Time's Up.
Yeah. Just to throw in a quick thing too, they make this one social deduction game called Lovestruck. We don't have a copy, can't show it to you, but we played it at this board game retreat, and it was hilarious. But very, very specific, because you're playing a social deduction game as contestants on a reality dating show. So lots of hijinks ensue, and you're trying to figure out if people are there for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, and Shu fooled me, and it was very upsetting.
Yeah, if you're there for the wrong reason, you're just there to get publicity and fame, and you don't care about love.
So if you have people who secretly or not so secretly love these reality dating shows, that is a hilarious theme for a social deduction game. Yeah. I love that.
You should say that for the quick hits at the end.
Okay. Yeah. But we were talking about Rabble games. So.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cute. Real quick. So I wanted to talk real quick about this. So recently, my mom discovered a popular energy drink, and I immediately scolded her. Right? I said, "Don't drink this." It's just, she wanted to pick me up during the day because she had trouble sleeping at night. She was tired during the day, but the can she was drinking, this energy drink, was just sugar and caffeine. And I'm like, this is not good for you, and it's not going to help you sleep at night. Yeah. So I realized I should send her some Magic Mind. You might have heard us talk about it on the show before. The mental performance shots, and they give us a brainy boost, like for long game days or for long conventions and such. But the main reason I wanted my mom to drink these instead of the other thing is that because of its healthy ingredients, right? Like it has turmeric, the superfood lion's mane mushrooms. Have you heard of this before? Mm-hmm. Yeah, lion's mane mushrooms.
Very hip right now.
Ashwagandha, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's an Indian ginseng. So these things have kind of
lots of vitamins.
Yeah, vitamins, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-cancer properties. They help with nerve function, stress, heart disease, all sorts of good for you stuff. So I didn't even know about all this. We were drinking this just because we're like, this tastes good, and it's giving us the energy, longer sustaining energy that we're not really used to with just like drinking a quick cup of coffee or whatever. So it's longer sustaining, calm energy, and it's nice to kind of drink these guilt-free. And this is why my mom, in dealing with her post-cancer issues, I feel much better if she drank Magic Mind instead of the other stuff. So whenever she needs energy, I'm sending her some Magic Mind for it. So we appreciate Magic Mind. The reason I'm talking about this, right? They're sponsoring Going Analog as a special offer for our listeners. They're giving us 40% off the next 10 and only 10 uses of this promo code. So if you're listening, You want 40% off. Be one of the first 10 people to go in and cash in this promo code. So go to magicmind.com/analog40. That's ANALOG 40. And use our code analog40 to get this deal. Again, for 40% off. Let's move on to my favorite type of party game, the team games. So we have one game that's everyone's on one team, one game that's team versus team, and one game where they're shifting teams. Mm-hmm. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, we've got Belratti up here, so let's talk Belratti, which is an older game that we got a German copy of many years ago. We loved it. So it is being released for America now through Cosmos. Gave us this copy, so it's a really fun little quirky game. So there's a lot of like identification of like basically trying to see like, oh, does this work, right? So why don't you describe?
Yeah. So I'll describe. I just played it more.
Theme.
The theme. So basically, the team is one full cooperative game. Mm-hmm. And then you're taking turns as either the museum directors or the artists. So what happens is we'll flip over 2 cards, and all the cards in the game are just simple everyday objects. It might be an alarm clock, it might be a ladder or an umbrella. So you just flip over 2 of these, and then so the museum directors are basically saying, we want the artist to provide paintings that fit this theme for this is a museum or gallery that we want. So if it's a red umbrella, we don't say exactly why, but the other team has to interpret, or the other side of the team, the artists have to interpret, does that mean they want red? Do they want something that's about water? Do they want something that's handheld? It's very subjective like that and open-ended, right? So then we'll ask for a number, like we want 6 paintings, for example, of these 2 themes, of these 2 cards that were flipped over. Then the other team, the artist side of the table, will now have to decide. They'll talk amongst each other, and they might say something like, I have 1 really good card for this, right? And then someone else might say, I have 2 decent cards for this. So they kind of plot out how many cards they could contribute to the 6th goal that would work for the 2 themes on hand. And they have to pick one of them, right? Like this one belongs to the umbrella, or this one belongs to the spatula. So they're thinking this in their mind. When they all stick their 6 cards collectively together, then we're going to mix 4 more random cards from Belratti, which is...
He's an art forger.
Yeah, he's an art forger. He's always trying to sneak in paintings into this museum, forgeries. So we draw 4 random ones. We shuffle the 6 from the artist plus the 4 Belratti cards all together. Then we flip them face up. Now the museum directors have to figure out amongst those 10 cards which 6 came from the artist and which theme do they belong to. Like in this example, do they belong to the red umbrella or the metal spatula? And then we're having discussions like, well, that one's really red, or that one you would hold in your hand, or this is a kitchen utensil, so that should go with the spatula, and things like that. So you have all these fun discussions. The other team, the artists, have to stay quiet, and they're cringing because they're like, we're on the wrong path. We're not thinking about this correctly. And then Belratti, you don't know, no one knows what got snuck in. So Belratti might have stuck in a card that fits even better for all, like a raincoat, for example. And it's like, oh, the museum directors might be like, that's perfect for an umbrella. Meanwhile, no artist actually submitted that. That was a Belratti card. So you make these decisions, and then at the end, you're going to say, okay, how many points did Belratti score for paintings that the Belratti stuck in? How many paintings did we get right that scored for the human team here? And then there are other powers that you can use and then recharge, like, hey, I want to exchange my painting cards out, or I want to switch one of those themes, or I want to change that number by plus or minus 1. So that kind of like, it's also an added element. But yeah, so it's like a really quick game. Everyone we've shown it to has really enjoyed it. When we used to play the German version for years now, we've had friends go out and seek out and buy that German version because it's such a good game. And then, but now it's in America. You have American rules, and it's nice. And then the art's kind of even bigger and brighter. So I like even the art cards, I think, are improved. So that's Belratti.
New version. Very exciting. Next, we have Blank Slate Challenge.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with Blank Slate, the original Blank Slate, this is from the op. The basic idea is you'll get a card, for example, dance blank. I don't know if you can see this on our YouTube video, but dance blank, and everyone has to fill in the blank. And then so you might write studio or partner or what?
Moves.
Dance moves, right? You figure out a word that you would plug in there that's a common saying using that dance prompt. So that's the original blank slate. And basically you're trying to match other people, and then you'll score points if you do some matches. If you don't match anyone because your answer is too unique, you don't get any points. Blank Slate Challenge is sort of like a slimmed down 2v2 version. Yeah. So basically you'll flip over a prompt, then you and your partner will have one little whiteboard with a top word spot that's worth 3 points, a bottom word spot that's worth 1 point. So if I match, like Christina and I are on a team, if we match the top word, we'll get 3 points. If we match the bottom word, we'll get 1 point. If we match both in the right order, we'll get a bonus 2 points. You play 10 rounds, and you're just trying to see if you can beat out the other team. So Blank Slate, this formula is already really fun. It's really simple. There are a million cards, and you're just like, fill in a blank. What's the first thing that comes to your mind, right? There are a million cards in here. And then now there's like a 2-layer. You're giving 2 answers for each prompt and hoping that you match. And last night, or we played it 2 nights ago, and it was really funny because there's one team that nothing was clicking for them. They're so off sync. If their brains were 2 Venn diagrams, they were just like 10 feet apart from each other. It was not working. But I will say I had this complaint the first time I played it. Other people I've since shown it to had the same complaint. They're like, why doesn't this support more players? You know, like it's just like, it's fun. It's really fun, but it's literally, you have to play it basically either 2 players or 2v2 4 players. So it's kind of limiting in that way. But then I'm like, I guess you just play regular Blank Slate. But I like the teaming up aspect.
Yeah. Maybe we can just do a version where we have it bigger anyway. Buy a couple copies.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Mini Game Party.
From Big Potato. So, yeah. So there's a couple of these. If we have time, we'll mention the other one, which is Tasks Team, which is basically, if you imagine like Mario Party, the video game, playing a bunch of mini games. So mini game parties. In here, in the set, you'll find a bunch of cubes, like everything's either red or blue. Some dice, some little tongue depressor type sticks, little wooden pieces, some cards, little paper cups and stuff. Just a bunch of crap in here, right? But then what happens is, so you got a group sitting at the table, and this is a team game, but the teams shift, and at the end, you want to be the sole winner, the one single player who scores
star player.
Yeah. So the first thing you do for each round, you play 6 rounds, you flip over a card that asks a prompt, right? It's like, for example, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, hot dog or cheeseburger, something like that. And everyone has a token. One side is blue, one side is red in that prompt. You have a token. You secretly will choose either the red or blue side, say which one you like better. So for me, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, ages ago would have been Star Wars. Nowadays, it's Lord of the Rings because I don't like Star Wars that much anymore. So I would pick the color that matched with Lord of the Rings. Then when everyone's ready, we reveal all our tokens. All the blue token people, whoever picked Lord of the Rings in this example, are one team for this round. All the people who pick Star Wars are on the other team. So you're going to have, a lot of times, you're going to have fairly even teams, pretty split down the middle. Once in a while, you're going to have one person picking one thing, and then everyone else picking the other thing. Then it's 1v all. So that's really fun. And just that one dynamic is like a fun discussion. People are like, oh my God, she was on a team by himself, and then now he has to face off against everybody. But the way they score is, if your team wins, you win as many points as the number of players on the other team. So if 5 people pick Star Wars, 1 person pick Lord of the Rings, the Star Wars team wins, they only get 1 point each per person. But if the other person wins, they win 5 points on themselves. So it kind of balances out that way. Then you draw another card, and it's like, here's what components you need. Here's the mini game. So we play things like, here, set a cup at a certain distance, set a little rubber ball, and use one of those sticks, and you're playing golf. And then whoever can score the most points wins for their team. There was another one where we're all throwing cubes into a cup. First team to get 2 cubes into the central cup wins. And then there was another one where you had to roll 4 dice. The first person to shout out the sum of those 4 dice wins it for their team, right? So it's like very fast, very frantic, really silly. We had a couple of people, it's like, it wasn't quite for them because it is really silly and kind of dumb in a way. But I love mini games. Like, I love Mario Party for that reason. It's just like, every round I was like excited to see what new thing are they going to create. Sometimes like there was one silly one where it's like, okay, set a stick here and then put a cube where you think is exactly 6 inches, right? And so we're all guessing, and then people are taking out their fingers and using their thumbs, and they all had their ways of like, what's an inch? And then so we rolled a die, and it was like 6 inches. And then it comes with this little ruler, so you can see which cube came the closest. So everything is just very different.
Who won that one?
I don't remember. I think Amanda Panda won that one. So so it's a really fun reveal, and then you're getting points, and you're working with different people all the time. And it's mini game party. And then the other one I was going to mention was Task Team, but between the two, I do like mini game party.
And we also have a few drawing games to talk about, which I love. I love a good drawing game, especially with people who are not fantastic drawers. Actually, one of them is just, we'll talk about the drawing game first. So this is Caution Signs by Danielle Reynolds, and it's just a really fun, quick, new drawing game. Everybody gets this sort of dry erase diamond. I mean, it's a square really, but like a caution sign, you want to have it sideways for better effect, I think. And then you will get 2 cards essentially. A bottom card that will be a noun, and a top card that's going to be some sort of adjective. So it's going to be a different combination every time. We get 20 seconds, so like the shortest time for a drawing game that I've done, and then you have to draw it. Right? It might be a flexible cow. You might have a smelly baby, a romantic dolphin, or whatever you might need to draw. So a lot of weird animal things. There are humans too. It's like it could have been a nun was one of the words that you might have to draw, or like a construction worker, things like that. So you draw it in 20 seconds. Nobody's going to be great at it. Some people are hilariously not great though, and that's fantastic. And then I remember our friend Phil did not know what a roadrunner was, and it was the weirdest looking thing ever. It was definitely not a bird. And then the one guesser who didn't need to draw in that round, they're going to shuffle up all of these cards. They look at our weirdo drawings, and then we add in a couple dummy cards too, and they have to assign like, oh yeah, that's totally a sexy construction worker, or whatever it might be, So you assign those, and then we see how many of those words they got right? So you score better, of course, if the guesser guessed both of your words. You get a little bit if they only guessed one of them. You get 0 points if your drawing was so off that they couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, it's one of those, and the guesser gets points as well.
And the guesser gets points for guessing perfectly only. Mm-hmm. So really love this game. I played it a ton of times. I'm always excited to play it. I love drawing weirdo things, and I had like a really fun, confused crocodile that I really fell in love with my drawing. So I took a picture of it. Yeah,
it's a really good formula because just the adjectives mixed with a random word creates funny scenarios. But the game doesn't give you much time. Like that really
that's the key thing.
Is so key. It's like one little change of making you draw poorly. Because I like games that almost force you to draw poorly, like Fake Artist Goes to New York or Telestrations Upside Drawn, where you just don't have the time to do it justice. So even good people can illustrate well. They're not going to. It won't matter. They're not going to have enough time to do this. So it just creates a lot of funny moments, and it's a really funny. So. Yeah, and that's from Wacky Wizard Games, which is like I think it's the family game or party game division of Wise Wizard Games.
That's right. Great game. And if you don't want to draw, you can color for Speed Colors. So this is a ridiculous sounding game. We saw it at Gen Con and we're like, this is stupid. And then we played it and we're like, this is so stupid fun, basically, right? So you played it again more recently.
Yeah, so this is from Friendly Skeleton Games. They also did Trash Talk, which was a really big hit amongst our group for party games. So in Speed Colors, there's a bunch of little cards. They're all like kind of made of white laminated dry erase. That's the word. Dry erase material. So on one side of the card is an outline in black and white of an object. Like it could be a rocket ship or a pirate boat or a teddy bear or something like that. But made out of like really kind of like a children's drawing, like an outline. On the reverse side of that card are every one of those major pieces. Like if it's a teddy bear, like each ear, its head, its body, and its torso. There's always 6 parts to every picture, and each one is fully colored in one solid color.
I think there's different difficulties. Some have more colors than others.
No, they all have 6 colors, but they're just how detailed and small and refined the pictures are is the difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have, for example, if you could see in here in the video, here's a picture of a really cute turtle. One leg is orange, the other leg's blue. Its body, its shell is made out of 3 segments, 1 yellow, 1 purple, 1 red, and its head is green. So what happens is you deal all of these cards color side down to all the players, 1 per player. And then when we say go, everyone flips over their own card. It takes as much time as they want to memorize the position of the colors, right? So you're just like whatever pattern you give them. I'm like, okay, this is blue and orange. This thing is purple. You take as much time. You can do it fast. You can go a little more slowly. Then when you're ready, you flip it face color side down, and now you only have the black and white version of the same picture. Now you scramble to grab those markers from the middle of the table. The same colors, there's 1 for each color in the middle of the table, but the catch is everyone is using the same pool of markers. So if you grab a green and Christina is also trying to grab a green, if I get to it first, then she has to wait for me or she has to go to another color.
Just out of luck.
Yeah, so it kind of messes up your flow because maybe you're like, I'm going to do green, then yellow, then purple. But then it's like green and yellow are being used. You're like, crap, let me go do red. But where was red? You're doing this all in real time. Everyone's racing each other. So inevitably, you're going to forget what you're doing. You're going to forget what colors are where. You're trying to find the right colors. You're waiting for other people. And you're just scrambling and fighting for colors. And then the first person to finish their drawings yells stop. Everyone finishes their current color. Then you look at the back. And so you can't flip back over to the colored side for reference, right? You had to memorize it. So then you look back and see how many did you get right. And it's 2 points per correct color in the correct position. You're not allowed to cheat. First time you and I played, I'm like, I'm just going to do a quick scribble to indicate this section's red. And then Benita, the aforementioned Benita, was demoing the game. She's like, what? You didn't even fill it in. It doesn't count. And I'm like, oh, you have to fill it in completely.
Actually color.
Yeah, color it properly. And then you just score points. You do, I think we did 4 rounds, and you see who has the most points at the end of the day. Really simple. It's going to be very kid-friendly, but just because of that memorization aspect, it's like, it causes you to, you're just like, oh man, I just spent like 30 seconds studying this picture, and I've already forgotten half the colors because of that real-time element, and you just want to race. Because the faster you can go, the more of a time constraint you put on everyone else. So yeah, speed colors, really simple, light fun. It's definitely maybe, I don't know, I think if you're you want more thinky part of games, this is not it, but it's just
especially if you have kids though around that you're going to play with. Great game for that.
Yeah,
everybody loves coloring.
For sure.
Surprisingly.
All right, so that does our main games. We're going to go through a few extras since we have some time. You already mentioned Lovestruck, it's the dating reality show social deduction game. So another game we bought Task Team. Oh, just for full disclosure, all the games we mentioned before this, minus Lovestruck, we received as media copies. So want people to know that. But we also got to play Task Team. We bought that. Same idea as Mini Game Party, which is just a bunch of mini games, a bunch of tasks. This time you do break up into 3 teams as evenly as possible. Those teams are set, and then you'll get a random challenge. And then so some of them, it also comes with a bunch of toys and little pieces of junk, and you might be like, I have to pile this thing, or I have to make this arrangement. First team, there's always 2 teams facing off against each other. The third team acts as the referee. Yeah. So my favorite moment from when we played that game was like, the challenge was find as many things in this house or home you're in that's pink, and then run, grab it, put it on the table. And it was really funny because we were like, all of a sudden, everyone's kind of looking around like, what's pink around here? And we just like, ready, set, go. The teams dispersed, and then the judging teams are watching all of this, and then we're running like, and then it's like, grab a pink marker or grab a pink, I don't know,
magnet, or this food box had pink on it.
Yeah, so everyone's just grabbing random stuff from our home, making a huge mess, putting it on the table near their team
still hasn't
side.
recovered. No.
Yeah. And then I thought I was so clever because I knew I had a pad of pink sticky notes. So I went and grabbed the sticky notes, shouldn't have taken the time, but I just start peeling them one at a time and slamming down like each one of these is a point. We're gonna have more items for sure than the other team.
But when I saw him do that, we were like, oh, okay. I have this old little like tiny terrarium thing that has a bunch of pink sand. So we're like, I'm pretty sure there's more pink grains of sand in this than there were Post-it notes.
When we saw that, we're like, we just gave up. We cannot be like a little thing full of pink sand in each grain. So there are funny moments like that, which are really funny, really awesome for the group. Then there was one where you had to like tell a story of some sort and the other team had to judge. I'm like, I didn't want to do this. It didn't seem like the right fit for the group. And it was just like, it started kind of go into that kind of Cards Against Humanity sort of range where someone has to judge everything. And then so I realized a better way to play perhaps is like you could draw a couple of cards and then pick which one you want to play, which one sounds more fun for your group. So that's Task Team. And
we have Ultimate Dibs too. Yes.
Yeah. Did you play that one?
I don't think I have.
Oh, okay. So this is from Skybound Ultimate Dibs. You lay out some cards. I believe, if I remember, it's a 5x5 grid of cards, and then each one has a kind of category like expensive things or office things or fantasy things, right? So on your turn, you would say something to the group. Like if it's my turn, it's like two teams. And then let's say I'm going for my team. I might say something like, I'll use the example in the back of the box, retirement. That's an office thing. That's an expensive thing. And it's a fantasy thing. It's like basically which one of these things, cards on the table kind of fit. And you're trying to name something that hits.
Code names like.
Kind of very code names like, yeah. Mm-hmm. As many of those as you can. Then you put out your team's colored chip on each card that you got correct. Now the other team, then it's their turn. And they can now name something. And then when you put a chip on a card, you refresh that card. So new cards are constantly refreshing in. Then you would say, okay, the other team gets a go. And then they can either get new spots, claim new spots for their color. So it's red versus green. Or they could flip over your token to their color. And then cards come out. If you could hit one spot twice in a row, it's like, I'm green, I got a green chip on it. And then I got that card again, the new card. Then the card is removed and that chip is locked in for good now. And then you play it kind of like a Connect 4 style game. If you get 3 chips in a row, diagonally or in a straight line, then you win. So it was really fun. It's fun coming out with the categories. It's like a kind of good twist on code names. My big complaint about it is I feel like there's a really heavy first team advantage. So I had to kind of think about if there's a way to kind of get around that or if there's something I missed. But it's like once the first team goes out and puts their chips out, they've already have a head start, right? And then the other team's just trying to play catch up. So I didn't like that part of it, but it's a cool concept nonetheless.
And I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a big deal. Co-designed by our friend Grant Lyon, who's been on our quiz show before.
And our podcast.
Our podcast, and he's done awesome. He does stand-up comedy and does some board game comedy, so go check him out. I'm kind of a big deal. So basically, it's a pickle-themed game about exaggerating. So you'll get a prompt, and the prompt might be like, hey, what's my ability to close a sale, right? So then you tell a story. But before that, you draw a token that might be 0, plus 1, 2, 3, or minus 1, 2, 3. You draw it in secret. So basically, you're going to tell a story, but that modifier will tell you how much to exaggerate by or how much to undersell what you do. And then people are trying to figure out how much is he exaggerating. So if I'm like, oh yeah, I can sell anyone to anything. I've done this before. I make up stories. You're probably lying a lot in this game. And you just start to make up things. And then people are on the table, this is best played with friends, obviously. And they're looking at you like, he's full of crap. He's probably a +2 or a +3. Then they're circling that number, trying to guess how much over-exaggeration or under-exaggeration. Maybe I'm like, yeah, I hate sales. I get really nervous around people. I start to fart a lot when I try to convince people of anything. Then people are like, he's probably a -3 or something like that. Then you score points based on how close the guesses are. And there's also additional pickle slices that you could bet to try to get more points. It's kind of an all or nothing kind of deal. So you could try to get ahead in points. So yeah, it's a fun little one of those kind of get to know you games, because when you're done, inevitably you have to explain yourself, or like, oh yeah, this is based on a real story, or this is what really happened, or that was full of crap and didn't make none of that was real. So then it's one of those kind of more storytelling type games that kind of get everyone to know each other better and bond together. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and I love all the pickle stuff. So they actually rented a full pickle bike thing, I think, during Gen Con. I forget. It was a whole thing, and with lots of pickles. So
it's one of those group. Normally, you're drinking together, like a party bike thing,
but with pickles. So, okay. So thanks so much for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed learning about all these party games. Maybe a few of them sang to you. You're gonna have them at your party night also. And yeah, thanks to Mike Zipkin for being our fantastic editor. And we just finished our season 5 of the Board Game Quiz Show, the content creator season. So see how you stack up. It was a tough season. We were pretty difficult on them, but they all did great. The most recent one, we had Danny Standring on, really fun person also, and it was a great episode. So check that out on YouTube and Facebook. And thanks so much. Now you can stop listening and go play a game.
Bye.
Bye.